All right, today is day 3 of our demonstration for making a mini sketchbook. I want you to put 2 papers together. Remember, they've already got their holes poked into them. Let's try and put 2 papers together. And we're going to try to lay them out. So what you're going to have is, I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. Are you able to see what I did? Does that make sense? I'm putting 2 papers together. I've already poked my holes and I'm folding them back down. So now it looks like I have 6 sections, okay? It is 6 little sections, and inside each section is 2 papers. You've already poked the holes, so you'll be able to thread through both of those holes at one time. All right, your next job is to be able to get out your embroidery thread. I chose blue. It's one of my favorite colors, and I have a needle that gives me a nice large opening. So this opening is there to make it easy for any type of thread to fit through, whether it's yarn or, in this case, embroidery thread. Your embroidery thread has many different threads that make up one thicker thread. So when you try to feed this through, you might find that you're not able to get all the little hairs in at once. What I do is, see how I'm holding my finger here? It's helping me so that I can use my thumb to pull what threads I did get through. And I'm going to try to pull all of them. Oh, it's separating. If it's separating, you know what you're going to do? Is I'm going to twist my threads at the end to help stop it from fraying. If it's fraying, then you're going to get frustrated because all the threads aren't going to go through. The reason we're using this kind of thread is to give you a thicker binding. Okay, now that time it worked great. Okay, so the reason we're using embroidery thread is to give you a thicker binding and allow you to be able to, not have a real thin thread that's a little too frail. I think embroidery thread works well. When I went to Thailand years and years ago, I made a sketchbook while I was there. I bought a needle while I was at Thailand, and then I went to the store and got dental floss. Dental floss actually has like a wax coating to it, and is also pretty darn strong. So you can use dental floss as well. Some people use thread. There's other types of strings out there, but those are the 3 that I know of. Embroidery thread and regular thread and dental floss. All right, so what I'm going to do is at the end of my thread, I am going to make a knot. And right now, I don't really need that knot to be super tight. It should be good. If the tighter I pull that knot, the smaller the knot's going to get, right? The purpose of a knot for this is so that your thread doesn't go through your paper. So it stops when it gets to your paper. All right, and I'm just going to trim the edge of this just a little bit because it's a little long. So now I have my knot here, and I have my needle on my thread. I'm going to take my first section, and I'm going to work from the inside. So I'm going from the inside, and I'm going to put my needle through those 2 holes that I made. See how it popped through? 2 papers. And I'm going to gently pull my thread through. It might bunch up like mine just did. If it does, just kind of pull it out so that it is not bunched up anymore. Okay, so I have 2 threads, it looks like. What I did is one of them is my thread that has a knot on the end, and the other one was just my extra thread, okay? Anytime you're sewing or you're using a needle and thread of any sort, you want to give yourself some slack. So what that means is I want you guys to have, you're going to have an extra string that's kind of hanging off of one end, okay? So mine was actually, what happened is I have my thread, one side has a knot on it, the other side just kind of dangles there. So that might be confusing for anybody in here who's never done any type of sewing before. Don't worry about it. Don't think about it too much. You don't need a whole lot of explanation. It's easier to just say, just do it. So you have one side that has a knot, which I've already sewed, and you have one side that has thread that's just kind of dangling, okay? So I'm ready now for my next part. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna feed, I'm going over here to the middle dots that I made, and I'm gonna put my thread through there. Woo, makes a nice pretty line, doesn't it? Okay, now I'm ready to, on this back side, what I'm doing is I'm gonna go back up through. The more I do this, the better I will be at explaining it. So if you're sitting at your seat and you're totally lost and confused about what the heck I'm doing, it'll make more sense the more I do it, okay? All right, so now I have now threaded it, starting with my knot right here. I have threaded from one side to the middle, then on the underside, I went back up through the top. Now I'm going to retrace my steps. I'm going to go back in the middle. Okay, and now I'm on the underside. I'm going to have my needle go back through there. And now it's at the top. That is it for today. You do that one step nice and slow, and you are golden. We will talk about the next step tomorrow.